people talk about money or the love of money being the root of all evil. And I actually argue instead that it is the root of all sovereignty. And sovereignty, it's a word that has also been bastardized. I think that we associate it with the state. We think the state is sovereign. But what's actually at the foundation of, again, Western civilization is probably the greatest idea people ever had. And it's the reason Western democracies have been more successful than any other economic system in the world, is that we actually hold that the individual, the sovereignty of the individual, supersedes that of the state. And this belief, it's embodied in certain legal principles, like in the US, we have innocent until proven guilty, we have habeas corpus. These things that actually say every human life has an intrinsic value, even if they've done something awful and terrible. And this is a far cry from where we began, say in ancient Egypt, right, where the pharaoh was sovereign, everyone else was a slave. So if you look at that grand arc, sovereignty has sort of been decentralizing over time to more closely mirror natural law. And again, sovereignty, the simple definition, is the authority to act in the world as you see fit, right? It just you have the ability to go out and, as a free market participant in the world, to carry out the actions and conduct the labor and create the fruits of those labor that benefits you, so long as you're not stealing from anyone or hurting anyone, right? It's just as long as you honor basic morality, don't kill, don't steal. And so I actually consider money to be kind of the root of all sovereignty, or maybe the greatest expression of it, in that we started trading. We had this system of what we called capitalism. It's basically just honoring private property rights, such that if you work on something, that you actually exclusively own the fruits of your own labor. No one else has a right to them, right? And the most tradable thing, or the most important property right in any economy, is money. So money is kind of the highest expression of human sovereign action in the world. And I go into this a bit in the piece. It gets quite philosophical. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this. But the concept of the logos. The logos is the principle of reason that mankind possesses that separates him from animal, right? Our ability to tell and believe stories is what distinguishes us as a species. There's a reason human beings can unite 10,000 people on a battlefield under a flag, a symbolic flag, whereas a primate troop can only congregate in groups of, say, 150, right? They can't abstract to that level. They can't tell this grand unifying story and mobilize their efforts collectively, whereas humans can. And that's what we do with, these stories like money, nation states, human rights, all these things, these symbols that we create for ourselves that orient us across time. And I argue that, and this is in accordance with natural law, that the logos that lives within each of us is the generative source of sovereignty. That is what we honor in our societal substructure, is that principle, the ability to convert order from chaos, as Jordan Peterson might say, that's the most important thing in the world. It's not any one individual. It's not any one nation state. It's not any one organization. It is the actual honoring of the process of the sovereignty of the individual to go out into the world, freely experiment, learn, and then diffuse those learnings back into society through trade, right? That's what the free market is. The free market represents a platform that optimizes for expression of the collective logos, whereas an unfree market, a centrally planned market, is the exact opposite, right? It's a suppression of the logos. And if you look at history, it's clear as day. Like, the first thing any aspiring dictator does is they come in and they try to silence the voice of dissent. I think in the piece, I talk about Soviet Russia taking over the press, or Nazi Germany basically suppressing anti-Nazi journalism. Sovereignty arises from the logos. So the more that we honor that principle, that inviolable principle within us all, the better off the world is. And we've gotten in our own way so many times throughout history by through greed, frankly, through this will to power. And I think Bitcoin, by actually optimizing for truthfulness and individual sovereignty, it sort of actually saves us from ourselves and hopefully rectifies this pathological hierarchy we call central banking.